the wetsuit idea, everyone had the idea for particularly for swims where it was below 55. But Enfield was the first guy to come out, and I believe it was 87, it was 86 or 87 Bakersfield. I think it was 87. We all show up, and Dan, I don't know, there's whatever, 20 or 30 male pros and, 10 to 20 female pros. He was handing out wetsuits. He goes, here, have a wetsuit, try this out. And we're like, okay, no one really thought anything of it, but you're getting a free wetsuit. You're a starving pro triathlete. And so that was the first race I remember where the pro field wore wetsuits. And that was probably the first and maybe only race I came out of the water in first place. And that was with a guy at the time named Mark Montgomery, who was the self-proclaimed best swimmer in the sport. And it didn't dawn on us at that moment, although Dan's wheels started turning immediately, that there were good people who were better in wetsuits than they were as pure swimmers. And vice versa. So the really good swimmers, aka Mark Montgomery, former lifeguard, all around great athlete, was an okay swimmer in a wetsuit, and me, mediocre swimmer in triathlon terms, was actually quite good. And that was a result of Dan and that innovation on that day. I just thought it was funny, and a couple of us decided to run down Lee Drive on a Thursday morning when, it's kind of peak at 8 o'clock. It's the peak of Digny Beach and all that stuff. And just got a lot of laughs. And the next year there's 30. The next year it was, close to 100. And that was the moment where we're like, this is funny, but are we really doing anything here? And so we thought, maybe it's a good way to raise money for the local charities, because at the time there was no Ironman Foundation. There were no concerted efforts around that. And so we chose West Hawaii Special Olympics at the time, athletes also, and wanted to help them out. They had a really tough time, A, raising money, and B, traveling inter-island or otherwise to be able to compete. And so we took cash. And I think that first year we gave them about $4,000 in cash, which, it was so raw and maybe unbusinesslike. We literally took money, handed them money, no receipts, no nothing. Who knows? Probably not the best business decision, and then over the years we were able to get folks involved, and it really, I think the most important part of that thing is that it's fun, because it really does help cut the ice, because there's a lot of pressure that week for a lot of people, the athletes especially, and then it also helps just if it all raises money, like there's no commercial interest in it. And people who wanted to be involved, and yes, this was a little troublesome early on, because some of the quote sponsors, which they were simply donating product that we could then sell for pure donations, and all the money was going straight to the charities. So that evolved and is done in a correct way now. But that for me has been the whole goal. And I know Rock has done the lion's share of the work in recent years in carrying that forward. But I think it's important. I think it's really important that we give back to the places where we compete, and we're the guests in all of these communities' homes, and it's all great that we get to come there and ride on those roads, and unfortunately sometimes ride 5 abreast and block traffic and do all the things that triathletes unthinkingly sometimes do. And I'm not going to say that I wasn't guilty of that at some point, but it's just simply to respect and give back. That's all.